I'm Clint Hardy, the Daviess County Extension Agent for Agriculture with the University of Kentucky in Daviess County. And today we're on the farm of Grady, Lynn, and Scott Ebelhar, just west of the Stanley community. They're harvesting wheat today and baling straw behind the combine. They're picking up baling straw and about to start planting double crop soybeans in this wheat straw as soon as they get this combine crop out of the field and finish with their straw pickup. So more wheat grown in Daviess County than typically for this past year. The market price at the time of planting, which would have been planted in the fall of 2022, the market price was lucrative at that time, so we had more wheat acres planted and good growing conditions. It's really turned out to be a good yielding wheat crop for most of the farms. And even now with the harvest price, if they didn't have it contracted, even what they're selling off the combine is a good price. So really turned out to be a good wheat year for the people who had the crop planted.
Yeah, I'm Grady Ebelhar. We're in the Stanley vicinity here on Fogle Road. We're thrashing wheat today. It's a family got dry enough to get to thrash the wheat because it's got to be a certain percentage before you can thrash it. Behind me is my combine, which I'm using, and the auger wagon is what I unload on. We're baling a little straw here for cattle and stuff like this, but the rest of it's going to the granary, and so it's selling as it's going across the scales. So we're trying to get it done. We had about 140 acres this year, and we're about half done right now. So by tomorrow we should be done. So wheat looks good this year overall. It's got a fairly good yield. You'll hit some spots, 90 and 100 bushel, which is pretty good average. You know, years ago you'd have 60 and 70, so it's a lot better than it used to be. So of course expenses are a lot higher too. You know, we raise corn and soybeans and this wheat, and we still raise a little tobacco. It's all wrapper tobacco. We don't raise any more burley anymore. But I've been farming my whole life after my dad retired too, and of course he's passed away now. But this year, it's starting out, it's awful dry, but we got lucky last week and got a nice shower, and we missed all the damaging winds through this area right here. Now, they had some over toward the Stanley area earlier, but we could use another good 1.5 to 2 inches. You don't pass up a rain this time of year when it's hot and dry, because when the wind blows all the time, it dries out quick. But it's not going to be a real good year, looks like, but it's going to be a good year. I mean, as of right now. So every year's different. It changes by the day.
Probably at least 3/4 of our corn was planted in the early months of April or early May, and then about 1/4 of our corn was either planted or replanted in the mid to latter half of May. It was very dry in the first couple of weeks of June, a little bit warm, and the corn crop began to need water. But fortunately, over the past couple of weeks, most of the county has received 1 or 2 rains, kept this crop growing, and now we're beginning to see some tassel initiation coming out of the tops of this very earliest planted corn. Another rain later this week would be helpful for that and get it on through the pollination process successfully.